You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 10th of September. PM Modi to speak with Trump, pushes for early conclusion of trade talks. People in Nepal express hope and trepidation after PM resigns. And Sri Lanka pushes back against UN call for international human rights trials. And now for all the details. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday pledged to talk and resume trade negotiations, signaling that trade talk negotiations between both countries are ongoing and it will be concluded as soon as possible. Trump wrote on Truth Social that he is pleased to announce that India and the US are continuing negotiations to address the trade barriers between the two nations. Modi responded that he is confident that the trade negotiations will pave the way for unlocking the limitless potential of the India-US partnership and that their teams are working to conclude these discussions at the earliest. Trump's positive comments come as the US is pressuring European Union leaders to join him in adding up tariffs on India to punish India for Russian oil purchase. This development comes a week after PM Modi's trip to China, where he held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The US president had criticized the meeting at the time and said India had been lost to deepest and darkest China. And Nepal is in turmoil after violent anti-corruption protests forced Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli to resign on Tuesday. Armed security personnel patrolled the streets of Kathmandu amid a curfew on Wednesday. Some residents called the protests as historic revolution, expressing both hope and trepidation. We have a report.
Nepal is witnessing the worst upheaval in decades, unleashed by a social media ban announced last week, which was rolled back after 19 people died on Monday as police fired tear gas and rubber bullets to control crowds. However, the protests spiraled into an anti-corruption uprising by Tuesday, forcing Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli and several ministers to step down after thousands of demonstrators stormed into the parliament and vandalized major institutions across Kathmandu. On Wednesday, as the situation calmed down, some residents in the crisis-hit nation called the youth-led protests a historic revolution and expressed both hope and fear for the future.
तर अब क्षतिको बावजुद पनि यो इतिहासको पन्ना पल्टिसकेको छ। यसको लागि हामीहरू युवाहरू सबै जागिसकेका छौं। त्यही भएर यस्तो कुरो भएछ संसारमा, संसार जनै बदलिसकेको छ हामीहरूको लागि। अब गरी खान पाउँछ यो जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ यो देशको स्थितिले। हामी यही दुई शब्द राख्न चाहन्छौं।
Kathmandu's market complex remained deserted, with shops and markets shut. Armed soldiers patrolled the streets of Kathmandu, including the vandalized parliament and the president's house, which was set ablaze by the protesters on Tuesday.
यहाँ का तो माहौल बहुत खराब है। यहाँ पे हर जगह घर, संसद भवन में भी खड़ा हूँ। ये संसद भवन है, आपका देखिए पूरा संसद भवन पूरा राख हो गया, जल के राख हो गया है। यहाँ पे चोरी ये सब छीन छान सब लोग किए, लेके चले गए हैं यहाँ से लोग।
27 individuals involved in looting, arson, and other violent acts during the Gen Z-led protests were arrested by the army on Wednesday. Nepal's army chief, General Ashok Raj Sigdel, earlier appealed to halt the protest plans and engage in talks following the prime minister's resignation.
वर्तमान असहज परिस्थितिलाई सामान्यीकरण गर्दै राष्ट्रिय एवं ऐतिहासिक सम्पदा, सार्वजनिक एवं नागरिकहरूको सम्पत्ति, आम नागरिक, मित्र राष्ट्रका कूटनीतिक नियोग तथा नागरिकहरूलाई सुरक्षाको प्रत्याभूति दिई राष्ट्रको सर्वोपरि हितको रक्षा गर्नु हामी सबैको साझा कर्तव्य हो। तसर्थ यस विषम परिस्थितिबाट राष्ट्रलाई शान्तिपूर्ण तवरले निकास दिनको लागि आन्दोलनरत समूहलाई आन्दोलनका कार्यक्रमहरू स्थगन गरी वार्ताको निमित्त आह्वान गर्दछौं।
Various countries including India have issued travel advisories for citizens in view of the prevailing situation in Nepal. The protests began on September 8 in Kathmandu and other major cities, including Pokhara, Butwal, and Birgunj, after the government imposed a ban on major social media platforms, citing tax revenue and cybersecurity concerns.
Moving on, traders in Gilgit-Baltistan have escalated their protest against federal taxes, warning of a complete shutdown of the Pak-China border at Sost. They say no levies can be imposed on the disputed region, declaring their sit-in will continue until demands are met.
Traders linked to Pak-China trade in Gilgit-Baltistan have announced they will suspend all immigration and customs activities at the Sost border as their sit-in against federal taxes has crossed 40 days. In a press conference, the Traders Ittihad Action Committee and Supreme Council of Gilgit-Baltistan said their movement opposes illegal federal taxes and discriminatory trade policies undermining their operations at the dry port. They stressed that no taxes can be imposed on the disputed, tax-free region.
हम ये चाहते हैं गिलगित बल्तिस्तान के लिए जो हम लोकल माल लेके आएंगे उस पर किसी किस्म का कोई टैक्स आयद नहीं होगा, किसी भी किस्म का टैक्स आयद नहीं होगा। हाँ, आप 1193 का एक बेनिफिट ले सकते हैं, वो ये है कि भाई ये थाकोट के मुकाम पर चेक पोस्ट लगाएंगे, यहाँ से जो माल जाएगी उनकी चेकिंग के लिए। हमारा धरना 1193 की बहाली या 499 के खात्मे के लिए नहीं है। हमारा जो धरना है वो गिलगित बल्तिस्तान चूंकि ये टेरिटरी जो है ये टैक्स फ्री है, भले आप इसको से कर दो एयरपोर्ट से लेके आए या कहीं और से भी लेके आए, तो यहाँ पर किसी किस्म का टैक्स हमारे ऊपर लगता नहीं।
The protesting traders welcomed the provincial cabinet's acceptance of two demands, but voiced doubts over delays in issuing written minutes and forwarding recommendations to the federal authorities. They lamented their grievances are not being taken seriously.
मगर हकीकत ये है कि हम पुरअमन लोग हैं, जो हमारे दूसरे बॉर्डर्स के जो लोग हैं वो बंदूक उठाते हैं। ये लोग कस्टम एस और यहाँ तक कि हमारे जो मिलिट्री फोर्सेस हैं उनको भी उठा के ले जाते हैं। हम शरीफ लोग हैं, हम पुरअमन लोग हैं, हम सिर्फ आवाज़ उठाते हैं, उसके बावजूद भी हमारे जो रियासती इदारे हैं वो हम पे शरीन और ये चीज़ें करवाते हैं, फिर भी हम खामोश रहते हैं। और जो हमारे ऊपर हमला हुआ था वो भी एक साजिश के तहत ही हुआ था।
And Sri Lanka has opposed intervention of the United Nations Human Rights Council on its human rights situation, saying that such actions undermine ongoing domestic efforts to ensure justice and reconciliation. Sri Lanka's foreign ministry stated that these external initiatives will only serve as hindrances to the ongoing national efforts and serve to polarize the population. Foreign Minister Vijita Herath will respond to UN High Commissioner for Human Rights report, and he is expected to call on the Council to implement the transformative reforms. Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, in his report urged Sri Lanka to adhere to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. The report also urged the island nation to put a hold on the use of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, repeal or amend laws that curtail freedom of expression. Sri Lanka, however, does not agree with the conclusions in the report. Sri Lanka has come under international scrutiny over human rights violations, particularly during civil war with the liberation tigers of Tamil Eelam.
On the High Commissioner's report, and I wish to address some of the matters raised in it. Our anti-corruption drive has been strengthened with new legislation enabling independent investigations and prosecutions leading to landmark convictions. The government is in the process of repealing the PTA and introducing new counter-terrorism legislation. Amendments are being formulated through consultations to the Online Safety Act. The government continues to strengthen their domestic reconciliation mechanisms by guaranteeing their independence and the necessary financial human resources.
And the United Nations on Tuesday said it was seeking about $139.6 million to support 500,000 earthquake-affected people in eastern Afghanistan, as it also urged donors to set aside any reservations about the Taliban regime. Indrika Rothwate, UN humanitarian coordinator in Afghanistan, told reporters in Geneva that lives are at stake in the region, highlighting the winter temperatures in the high-altitude regions in the coming weeks will make the situation even worse. The UN humanitarian coordinator said funding shortfalls were worsened by donor reluctance due to the Taliban's policies against women, noting that the US has yet to release earthquake relief funds. The WHO has also urged the Taliban to lift restrictions on female aid workers and allow them to travel without male guardians. The August 31st quake in eastern Afghanistan has killed at least 2,200 people, with the toll expected to rise, leaving many families homeless and forced to live in crowded tents or under open skies in rain and cold.
The overall cost Around this, the funding required is $139.6 million, and this will span the period from September till the end of December. It will be an integral part of, obviously, the existing humanitarian response plan, but this will be the requirements to respond for this particular emergency. Right now, lives are at stake. 2 more weeks and the winter temperatures are going to be reaching these high altitude communities. And what we want to do is have the ability to reach and respond to the communities affected with this terrible tragedy that struck us 2 weeks ago.
And Bangladesh has decided to allow the export of 1,200 tons of hilsa fish to India ahead of Durga Puja. The country's Ministry of Commerce issued an order on Monday fixing the minimum export price at Rs 1,520 per kilogram. Bangladesh High Commissioner to India Riaz Hamid Ullah posted on X about the Bangladesh government's decision. Exporters have been instructed to submit fresh application along with trade licenses, tax documents and clearance from the Department of Fisheries by September 11. Bangladesh has traditionally permitted limited shipments of hilsa fish during Durga Puja. In 2024, the government had cleared 2,420 tons for export after initially considering 3,000 tons. Authorities have also reserved the right to halt shipments at any stage. This move comes amid strained relations between New Delhi and Dhaka after the ouster of former PM Sheikh Hasina in August 2024. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.